Hello, welcome back. If you're new, this channel focuses on the ins and outs of living abroad in the beautiful country of Poland. Now, for today's video, I'm going to be talking about policing in Poland. Let's get started. Before I start this video, I just want to throw out a huge disclaimer. My experience, obviously, I'm me, and I don't represent all the experiences of foreign people here in Poland, and I definitely don't represent the experiences of Polish people that actually live here in Poland. However, even with that said, and kind of comparing the topic that I'm going to be discussing with policing in the USA, policing in Poland, and policing in Europe as a whole is completely different. My experiences are limited to a lot of small towns here in Poland. In addition to that, when I was abroad, so when I was not in Poland and I was in Spain, my experiences were kind of limited to Madrid and the different districts of Madrid. The same would be the case when I was in Australia. My experiences were limited, and so maybe I don't have or haven't experienced the full scope of policing here in Europe and other parts of the world. But from what I can gauge and what I've experienced, there is not a big policing influence in Europe. Now, I say that, and now let me break it down for you a little bit. Here in Europe, specifically here in Poland, and specifically in the region that I live in Poland, you're not going to have the situations where police are like all in your business, or police are everywhere and they're kind of watching all of your steps. And I say that as a foreign person, and I say that specifically more so as a Black person. In the USA, I can't count actually the number of times I was pulled over by the police or stopped by the police when I hadn't done anything illegal, or I hadn't done anything to kind of warrant that attention or warrant that stop or warrant that questioning. And throughout my experiences in Americas, and those experiences are specifically limited to Los Angeles, I have been pulled over by the cops countless times. Here in Poland, that hasn't been the case. Now, I have a specific situation where I was pulled over by the police when I was driving. And even though I don't think the ticket was fair, and I think that it was kind of a speed trap, that particular day I was in an area that I don't usually drive in, and I was driving up a road that I usually never drive on. In fact, I think it was the first time ever driving on that road in the specific direction that I was. And I was kind of following the flow of traffic. So there were several other cars in front of me going the same speed, and there were a few cars behind me going the same speed. And so here in Poland, and I also noticed here in Europe, what they do is they have like a radar, and they kind of picked out cars, and then they use the radar and they calculate your speed. And so I was pulled over for speeding near a particular roundabout in a city I don't normally frequent quite often. And there were two of us were pulled over. So I was pulled over, and another gentleman with his family, a Polish gentleman, was pulled over. And, the weird part to me was that there were two cars in front of us. And so they weren't able to catch those cars because there were only two police officers. And there were two cars behind us. When the police officers signaled us to stop, those cars almost rammed into the back of us. So I feel it wasn't fair, because I feel like I was going the flow of traffic at that time, even though, the flow of traffic was over the speed limit in that particular part of that particular city. But even with that, with the stop, one of the police officers spoke English really good. And so there wasn't a problem with communication. And I'm used to getting pulled over by the police in the USA. And I'm used to police officers asking me like very stupid, there's no other word that I can use, very stupid and unnecessary questions about where I'm going, why am I speeding, do I realize the speed limit in this area, do I have anything in my car? It's just like very stupid and like asinine questions. And here in Poland, when I got stopped, and the gentleman that got stopped next to me, the police officer simply told me, "Hey, you were speeding. I have you on radar. Here's the radar gun. This is the speed limit that you were going, and now I'm going to give you a fine that you can either choose to pay on the spot, or you can choose to give me your information and pay the ticket later." Now, I had an additional issue, so I had to stay longer. But during the whole interaction, the police wasn't friendly. I don't think any police officer is going to be friendly and like your best friend when they pull you over to give you a ticket. But the encounter was civil. The encounter was respectful. And it was just like talking to any other authority, or talking to an authority figure at my university, or talking to, the individual on trains that checks to see if you have a valid ticket. It wasn't any like power trip. The police officers were simply trying to get their quota for that particular month. Like I said, I had an additional issue because I don't have a Polish license. As you may know, I am in the process of doing that right now. And so he, asked me, "Where's your Polish license? Do you have an international license?" And I was like, "No, I don't have that." And I was saying I'm going to start getting my Polish license. I just haven't received my temporary residency card to do that. And so he was like, "All right, no worries. Let me go ahead. Can you pay the fine now?" I ended up paying the fine. And he was like, "Hey, you need to get a Polish license." And he was like, "All right, goodbye." And in the States, that has never happened to me. So in the States, I've gotten a speeding ticket, or maybe two speeding tickets in the States. Um, but like I've said, I've also been pulled over in the States for not committing a crime. So basically in the States for racial profiling. And here in Poland, as a lot of people in Poland have pointed out to me in my video, A Black in Poland, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out, is that there isn't, or there hasn't really been, a relationship with people of color or Black people in Poland. And Poland didn't participate in a lot of the colonialism and a lot of the racial issues that other countries participated in. In fact, when the USA and other countries were at the height, or I can say during a lot of the civil rights movements, Poland was having its issues with communism and having its issues with other Western European countries, and its issues with other Eastern European countries here near Poland. And so therefore it doesn't have a history where there is this negative concept of idea of Black people or other people of color. With that said, that doesn't mean that Poland is completely isolated from the ideas and concepts that other countries in Europe have formulated about people of color and Black people. So Poland is not out of the loop with that. However, it has had a different history. And so therefore, the systematic racism that exists in other countries, like I could name the UK and maybe other parts of Europe, don't necessarily exist here. So my experience with these police officers was solely based on their behavior and solely based on their attitude and how they felt that particular day, versus in the States, where I would have to deal with that police officer's demeanor, in addition to systemic racism and stereotypes about me as a Black person. Now, I don't want to make this video super long or any more complicated than it has to be. So I just want to say that policing in Poland, specifically when it comes to me as a Black person in Poland, it's not this heavy, it's not this thing where I feel threatened or I feel nervous by the police. When I first moved here, there was a lot of encounters when the police would pass me, either by walking or driving by me. I would have this weird feeling in my stomach because in the USA, about 8 times out of 10 times I got passed by the police, I was pulled over. Or when a police was driving slowly behind me, like he automatically pulled me over. Versus in Poland, when a police officer is driving slowly behind me, a lot of times, like he's busy doing something else, or he just so happened to be behind me driving slowly. It's not an issue. And I think this video is important to put out into the YouTube universe just to reassure Black people and people of color is that when they come abroad, specifically when they come to Poland, those particular issues of policing and I guess aggressive policing or policing that is not necessary doesn't quite exist here. I can almost say for me, in my experience, it doesn't exist at all. And so I can rest assured that I can live my life here and not be pulled over for what I look like. Again, I want to emphasize that I cannot speak for everyone. I can't speak for every Black person that lives in Poland. I can't speak for Polish people who live in Poland who may have different encounters with the police than I have. However, I have to say that the experience here with policing has been positive, and the beauty of being here is that it has kind of changed my thought about police and my attitudes about policing. And it also has given me potential solutions that could be beneficial for countries that have racial bias in the police structure. Anyhow, if you like these kind of videos, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And I definitely can't wait to see you next week.